Hi, Josh. How would you
Morning.
assess, good morning. How would you assess how Emmanuel has been playing and how important is he to what you all do defensively?
I would say, Emmanuel, again, he's been a good leader for us. He leads by example. He comes in and puts a good day's work in every day. He's been able to be multiple for us. And he's been able to have some production for us. Um, so, um, I would say the things that he's doing for us over the, course of the season, I think that's been consistent. And the things that, he needs to improve or that he's worked really hard to improve some things that maybe haven't went his way. And I would say that, and we're seeing production from him out on the field. So,
Thank you.
mhm.
Daniel?
Good morning, Josh. Hope you're doing well.
Good morning.
I think heading into this matchup, a lot of people will just naturally look at the quarterbacks that you're facing, Cam Newton, and kind of draw a quick comparison to Lamar and say, okay, you guys can kind of replicate the same, I guess, game plan. When you look at the Panthers' offense in that scheme, what differences do you see compared to what you faced against the Ravens and what the Ravens do?
Well, I would say the similarities are that they definitely have the quarterback runs that Baltimore has. There's a little bit different flavor to it. All three of the backs that Carolina's used are dynamic players. I mean, started headlining that with McCaffrey, but Hubbard and Abdullah, those guys have all made explosive plays too as well in the run game. And then it's just a matter of how they choose to play. They have some call it normal runs, and then they also have their quarterback runs that they can implement, which they've implemented a little bit more in the past 2 weeks with PJ Walker and Cam Newton at quarterback. But they've run some of that stuff earlier in the season with Darnold too, so it's not foreign to them.
Hal?
Hi, Josh. Actually, Daniel kind of took my question before I could ask it about the comparisons. But let me kind of flip it a little bit and ask you if there were certain keys that you wanted your defensive players to keep in mind when they face Lamar and his dynamic style. What are some keys toward handling Newton and the kind of power that he presents when he takes off running?
Well, I think when you're talking about a quarterback run scheme, I think it's very important for us defensively to make sure that everybody plays good assignment football, and you try not to do more than your responsibility, because that's when you can get in trouble, and that's when you can put yourself in bad position. And somebody like Lamar can make you miss, or somebody like Cam can run through you. So, I mean, really, when you're talking about a quarterback run game, it really starts with assignment football, and that will kind of be our focus going into the week.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Travis?
Hey, good morning, Coach. I wanted to ask you about your four, and maybe interchangeable is the wrong word to use here, but your four interior guys that can seemingly play all over the place with Raekwon, Adam, Christian, and Zach. I think that the obvious question would be how much does those guys being able to all play significant snaps and stay fresh help them out? But was that kind of the thought process building that room out, was to be able to keep all four of those guys fresh? And is that something you guys talk about in terms of them having fresher legs as the game goes along?
Well, again, I mean, I would have to go back to Chris and Flo on this, and those guys building the roster. I mean, I think you want good depth at every spot that you have, and again, you want to feel comfortable when you put guys out on the field that they're gonna know what they're doing and they're able to execute. And I think all four of those guys up front, obviously there's some multiple things that they can do. Again, it really boils down to the simplicity of trying to put the guys in the best position to succeed. And within the structure of, 11 guys being out there and a total team defense. So with each of those guys, even though they may play the same spots, at certain points, you may try to highlight a little bit different things that they can do or do well, even though they're playing the exact same position. It just, you kind of tweak it a little bit to highlight their abilities. And I would say the good thing, those guys are all good players. They're all good workers. And, they come in and, they compete every day. So they're really a joy to be around.
Omar?
Good morning, Josh. I want to ask you about the structure of your defense. And I know you guys didn't just create this defense out of nowhere. It's kind of built off what you all did in New England. But how important is having two cornerbacks that can hold their own on a one-on-one coverage when you're doing a lot of this exotic stuff and blitzing the safeties? Could you do this defense without having those two guys?
I feel very fortunate, that we have the two guys that we have, and I feel pretty comfortable with the guys that we have behind them. And, there's time. That's the nature of the position. And obviously, I've coached that position for many years. There's going to be times, regardless of your scheme, the majority of teams that you see when it comes to third down, red area, you're usually getting, at some point, you're going to get a version of man, whether that's blitz coverage or man with help. I think, their job is when they go out there, we ask them to do a lot of things, but at the end of the day, I mean, you're responsible for covering the guy that we need you to cover when we ask you to do that. And, and we feel very fortunate about the guys that we have. And again, I think, Coach Burks has done a good job with those guys, and, they work extremely hard at their craft. I've always kind of compared it to like being, in martial arts. It's a skill set. And if you don't practice your skill set, your skills are going to diminish. And those guys work very hard at that every day, because it's not a really easy thing to do. We feel very fortunate about the two guys that we have, and we feel very fortunate about the spots that we can put them in. And, and those guys have done a good job for us.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
David?
Hey, Josh. With Noah Igbenogany inactive again, wanted to know what he can stand to do better and what you tell him in that regard.
Well, it's probably good advice for everybody, and myself included. You need to try to control the things you can control. And, and that is come in, put in a good day's work and do the best you can and keep improving and keep working at it. And, and then just, when you get opportunities, make the most of them. And, like I said, we're pretty fortunate to have, Chris and Flo have done a good job putting the roster together. We're pretty fortunate to have good depth at that position. And, again, just to keep doing what he's doing and working hard and keep improving. I think those are the things that he's doing and that we encourage him to do.
Travis?
Hey, Coach, Omar's question and your answer kind of had me curious. When you guys play that zero pressure look and there's no help over the top, what's kind of the coaching point or the weighing of the risk versus reward in terms of taking chances versus kind of playing off and just being more willing to accept underneath completions?
Well, I think it's probably, again, if we feel, one, it's a philosophy thing. And I think Coach Flores has hit this point many times that, whether it's in the kicking game offensively or defensively, we're going to be aggressive. I think, you know, you're always looking for spots when you feel it's best to do, and when it's advantageous for us as a defense, and when it, again, coincides with putting your players in a position to succeed. And, you know, I don't, you know, it's one of those things, sit back, go after them. You know, I think there's always a good mixture. But you know, I just think from a philosophical standpoint, you know, that, you know, we're going to tend to be a little bit aggressive.